Good morning, everyone. I am also a victim of social media. We all wake up in the morning. What's the first thing we do? For some of us, we say our morning prayers. The next thing we do is we pick up the phone, begin to look at the various social media. And I want to say that the vitriol, the statements coming out of Ghana, out of the Republic of Ghana, are beginning to be a cause for concern. I will no longer pretend that I'm comfortable. I have not been comfortable from day one. Those that have followed me for nearly 20 years know that I have warned the Igbo people to be careful. And I will not stop doing so, because stopping would mean not alerting the people about who they are and the consequences of everything they do. I will call a spade at the end of this presentation, but I will gradually build up my case as the lawyer that I still am. An Igbo guy who is living in Ghana made a mistake. He made a mistake he saw the Igbo society making. That mistake was believing that they could leave their tradition, adopt other traditions, and still remain very healthy, very safe, and continue to prosper. What was that tradition they left? Traditionally, the Igbo people were led by their elders, who become priests because they were the elders. The grandest, the number one person in every Igbo umunna, every Igbo obodo, umunna is family, obodo is republic or clan, is the oldest man, usually the oldest member of the first family that began to create that republic. He has a place of honor. He is not a ruler, but he's the number one person. When the people gather for anything, he says the prayer. There is another person called Obi. Usually this is somebody that the community chose to serve them, not rule over them, but to serve them. Obi. Then there are the people who take care of the public religious life of the people. They are the priests. We call them Ezana or Ezemo. Then there are the people who decide to live by a vow of holiness. We call them Nze. Everybody, man and woman, everybody is encouraged to take the status of Nze. These are the leadership structures that are authentic in the Igbo society. Any other thing is an invitation to anarchy, an invitation to genocide. After the British came and introduced warrant chiefs, the Igbos accepted that the people who came all the way from Europe to enslave them brought something good to them. And the Igbos began to not only bring up some of them and call them Igwe, that is heaven. But they also began to lie that they had them in the past. I'm a young man. I know when my community began to tamper with this, began to, to recreate the Obi into something else, into what I'm describing. That is what this guy in Ghana saw after it had even become more corrupt. After some had created a monster out of the problem and began to call it a Zibo. This was what he saw and imported it to Ghana. And because he had wealth, you could trust a few Igbos to gather around him, and the thing began to develop arms and legs. Before you know what was happening, he began to really, because he had wealth, he began to show off himself as a real king. Began to use words that should trouble the Igbos. But Igbos have gone beyond being troubled by anything. When he says, I'm ruling, not Nigerians, but the Igbos. If the Igbos are still normal and healthy, and they know the meaning of rule, they should have called him to order in Ghana, but I'm not sure they called him to order. Not sure he would listen. Because when he began to call himself a king, it means he has subjects, and those his subjects, according to him, are Igbos. And what is another term for subject? Slave. Then things got really bad when, according to one Yoruba man who wanted to be more honest, who wanted to be more sincere, Mayegun Diary, he said that really what this guy wanted to do was to build a housing estate, lure Igbos from all over the world to come and buy it, and he will make more money. So he bought land in Ghana and said he's building an Igbo kingdom, and upset the Ghanaians, and the Ghanaians should be upset. Both for good reasons and bad reasons, the Ghanaians should be upset. Number one reason, which is a good one, is that a foreigner leaves his country, comes into your country, and begins to claim that he wants to build a kingdom. And explained it in such a way that the natives began to understand that only Igbos who live there, the Ghanaians, have a right to feel threatened. But then, the bad reason for their being angry is they are now accusing every Igbo of harboring an intention to dominate their country, and they know they are not saying the truth. But the Igbos are targets, and I will tell you why they are targets. Due to still the same mistakes, I'm not one of those that will excuse myself. Due to still the same mistakes, Igbos grew so weak that they became so marginalized that they ended up roadside and street side traders. So, I've not been to Ghana, but I'm pretty sure that if you go to Ghana, most of those running these little stores, staying awake from 6 in the morning to 9 in the night, oh, I want to buy a loaf of bread, I want to buy a cigarette, I want to buy a tin of milk, a lot of them will be Igbos. People naturally hate people that do these kind of things because they are like middlemen. They are like middlemen. The people that produce these goods in Nigeria, in Ghana, in China, in Japan, in Europe, are insulated. They are the real capitalists. But that Igbo guy that owns a store is perceived as the person milking the community. So there is already some resentment for those guys that have come into our country, open stores everywhere, and I must not forget, there are also some that are genuinely bad eggs. Just like there are some Ghanaians that are bad eggs who commit crimes. But they are very, very few. But because this society is already suspect for producing the roadside, the street side owners of stores, renters of stores. Then, when this guy threw in the horror of setting up an Igbo kingdom, that was the spark. And everybody began to make a living in incitement, engaging in incitement against the Igbos. They don't know what incitement means. Incitement was essentially what led to the Nazi Holocaust. Incitement was essentially what led to the genocide of the Igbos in Nigeria and Biafra. Oh, these people are like this. These people are evil. These people are like this. These people are like this. At a stage, people stopped seeing them as humans. People began to see them as vermin that should be exterminated. And that is what is gradually building up in Ghana. And who is supposed to take this most seriously? The Igbos themselves. The Igbos have a homeland. The Igbos don't believe they have a homeland again. When they visit there to show off their wealth. This is not going to end well. I repeat, this is not going to end well. I will now say, I said I will say some of the things that are unpalatable towards the end. If I did not know that these would happen, then I became negligent too. When the information circulating all over the world became that Israel is this, Israel is that, Israel is this, Israel is that. Some have begun to even say Jews are this, Jews are that, but remember, the state of Israel is a political entity. The Jewish people are just an ethnic group that exists. According to them, they are just 50 million. They are generally found in the US and Europe, according to them. They don't know that they exist in other places. So let me look at them the way they choose to look at themselves now, that they are just 15 million. They don't include the Igbos because of short-sightedness. They don't know the history, but that's a subject for another day. So these 15 million are not, half of these 15 million are not Israelis, but I have seen people who have gone beyond accusing Israel to now accusing Jews too. When I saw it, I knew that it's a question of time before the accusations against the Igbos will start coming, because what is happening is anti-Semitism. And this nation of Israel is an apocalyptic nation. When it begins to affect A, it begins to affect B. I knew that sooner or later the Igbos will get there. And do you know the interesting thing? Some Nigerians that have seen what is happening in Ghana as an opportunity to descend on the Igbos are saying that these Igbos are like the Israelis. That's what we see. And it's not one, it's not two, it's not three persons that are saying this. That these Igbos are as evil and as bad as the Israelis. So, my brothers and sisters, there has to be a radical Igbo program to first, because I will not tell all the Igbos to live wherever they are today and return home. That is not practicable. But wherever you are, lower the temper, drop the arrogance. If you are engaged in crime, stop. If you are engaged in crime of any type, stop. It's not going to end well. Then, if you are engaged in extravagance and flamboyance, stop. Third, Igbos begin to think of taking control of Igbo land again, because ultimately Igbos will be expelled from most countries. And if the Igbos have lost Igbo land by then, the fate of the Igbos is for you to imagine. I know what I mean that Igbos, by saying that Igbos should take control of Igbo land. All the atrocities that Igbos commit there should cease forthwith. Every Igbo should stop engaging in anything that is sinful or wrong. That is what is making Igbo land not fit for habitation for the Igbo people. That is essentially what is driving the Igbo people into exile. If the Igbos live good lives wherever they are, That about 40,000 square miles of territory will take in all the people that are Igbos in the world and people that are even friendly foreigners. Thank you. Have a nice day.